Hello, Robert England here, a.k.a. Freddy Krueger, and you're listening to geeksoftheindustry.com. Don't fall asleep.
Geeks of the Industry.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're about to witness some scenes from the next attraction to play this picture, truly one of the most unusual ever filmed, contains scenes which under no circumstances should be viewed by anyone with a heart condition or anyone who is easily offended. We urgently recommend that if you are such a person or the parent of a young or impressionable child now in attendance, that you and the child leave the auditorium for the next
Welcome to Creature Features, a horror discussion from geeksoftheindustry.com. And now your host, Chunky Larry.
Greetings, fellow insomniacs, and welcome to a special edition of the Creature Features podcast on geeksoftheindustry.com. I am your host. Of course, my name is Chunky Larry, and I am continuing this somewhat sub-theme of Nightmare on Elm Street-centric interviews. And to best introduce this, I guess I want to go back in time a little bit. And I'm going to go back to a TV show by the name of Freddy's Nightmares. And when that show began, director Tobe Hooper at that time directed the ultimate, backstory for Freddy Krueger. And for the longest time, I felt that was going to be as good as we were ever going to get for a look into the world of Freddy Krueger before he became the Elm Street slasher that we knew cinematically. That is, of course, until my guest this week donned the hat, the fedora, the sweater, and the glove to give us all a look into the world of Elm Street. And I am over the moon excited to sit down and discuss his career and his work in the Legend of Elm Street, the Tales of Elm Street, a walk through Elm Street. Anything you can do on Elm Street, this guy has done it. This fucking guy has fought Michael Myers and Jason. Mr. Roberto Lombardi. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How are you, Larry?
I'm fantastic, man. And I gotta say, I always do my due diligence kind of going into one of these conversations. And, man, you have had a fucking life and a half, guy. It's kind of interesting because you always kind of try to figure out, where a good place to start. And, traditionally it's like, oh, well, when did you get into acting? But you've done things other than acting that I think are just wholly interesting, especially being a police officer, being a musician,
Yep.
Being a bassist in the band April Fool, which
Yep.
I listened to some April Fool kind of going into this. Fucking nice, dude.
It was a fun time.
The hair was so majestic.
Yep.
Majestic as fuck, I should say. Just it's I gotta say, what the hell was the name of the music video that you guys did?
Cover Girls?
No, not Cover Girls. The black and white one.
Oh, Next Time Around.
Next Time Around.
Yeah.
Wow. I love that fucking song, dude. Like, I was just blown away by how much of just that's a whole nother life that you had, before any of all of this, and it's just, it's exciting and it's interesting to be able to kind of, pick your brain about some of these things. So I guess I will start in Philadelphia, born and raised. And playgrounds where you spent most of your days?
Well, no, I in South Philadelphia, yes. I was born in South Philadelphia, and I lived there until I was in between first grade and second grade, and then my parents moved out to the suburbs. So I was a suburbs kid after that. And totally different experience between the two.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. I preferred the city.
Yeah. So, what came first, April Fool or being a cop?
Oh, April Fool, definitely. I mean, I joined April Fool in 1987 as their bassist, and I had already been in a whole bunch of bands prior to that, some of them playing drums in. And as luck would have it, their bass player quit, and I already knew the drummer from just being on the same club circuit, and called me up and said, we need a bassist. Come on down. And I did, and I didn't leave until the band ended. So yeah, it was fun. There was a lot of East Coast touring up and down the East Coast. We recorded an album, did some videos, met a lot of groupies.
Nice.
That type of thing. Yeah, it was a great time to be in a band in the 80s.
So was that initially, kind of where your headspace was? Is that you were just going to do music, or was acting ever in the background in your head?
Yeah, kind of both were. I always wanted to be a musician, and as I said, I started off playing drums, and I switched to bass later on.
I'm sure your parents loved that.
You know what? I gotta tell you, you would think that it would be a huge pain for them, but I have incredibly supportive parents. My parents had no problems with me banging the drums in the basement, had no problems with me having band rehearsals in the basement. At one point, they fronted me money so that the band could record. That's awesome. How supportive that they were and are. But yeah, the whole music thing came first, and I kind of dabbled in acting a little bit. I was on a kids' television show when I was 9 years old, something like that. A few episodes just locally in Philly, and then music kind of really took over. But I always kind of acted in the background, kind of. I did some local theater, some school theater, and extra roles in some Hollywood stuff as a teenager too. But then music really kind of took over for me, and I came back to acting after the music part was really done for me.
So, your work, has it primarily been East Coast, or did you ever venture out to the West Coast to try your hand at it?
For music or for acting?
For acting.
Oh yeah, I'm back and forth to the West Coast all the time. Yeah, I do surprisingly little work in Philadelphia.
Really?
Yeah, most of the work that I've done has been in the North Jersey, New York City area. I've done some work in DC and Virginia. I'm supposed to go out to Texas this year, and I've done quite a bit of work in LA over the last 4 years. So yeah, I mean, I've done work in Philly, of course, but I'm all over the place.
And how did you get mixed in with Blinky? Blinky 500, I believe, is the name of the production company.
It is Blinky Productions, yes. And when Chris was casting his first film, Methodic, in, I believe it was 2007, I saw the casting posted, and took a drive up to North Jersey and auditioned for him, and he cast me in a smaller role. I think I had like 3 lines in it at the end of the movie, but that was the beginning of our working relationship, and our friendship kind of blossomed from there. I mean, Chris is definitely one of my very best friends, and he really, I kind of went through a process with him. he gave me the small role in Methodic, and then I didn't really work with him for a while, like almost a year. And then he gave me another role, which was a supporting role in a short called, he did kind of a gritty remake of Maniac Cop, and I did that. And then I got a little bit better roles, and Chris kind of works that way with his actors, where he pretty much won't give you a lead right off the bat unless you're a name actor. And at the time, I wasn't. I was just getting restarted into the acting business. And so you really have to build with him. And I did. And here we are 10 years later, I'm still working with him.
And, I talked about this kind of briefly with Deandra in the last interview I did. But, I feel... because I'm still very new to the world of fan films, like you get like the ones that become viral, like the Power Rangers one. I think it was like last year, and if you're like myself in the world of horror, whenever there's a new like Nightmare on Elm Street or Halloween or something like that, those will kind of float under your radar, but you kind of hear rumblings of it. But I feel that your Krueger series and the Don't Fall Asleep series were both just excessively popular. And it was kind of in looking into the Krueger series that I found some of the other stuff that you guys have done, and I mean, it's impressive. I literally last night, before we had this conversation, I watched the series of the Escape from New Jersey.
Yeah. And
man, I geeked out on several occasions. Just there's specifically one moment where it's Snake Plissken and Jack Burton sitting at a bar with all of this like Carpenter love on the wall behind you guys, or behind them, and it's just for anybody that's listened to a handful of these shows, they'll know that Wes Craven, John Carpenter are like the Mount Rushmore of filmmakers for me, and I obsessed over their catalogs. So very much like with Nightmare on Elm Street, being able to revisit Escape from New York and not having to watch Escape from LA, fantastic.
Well, there's characters from both of the John Carpenter movies in that, and that bar scene that you were talking about, and I'm sure you're familiar with the Escape from New York and the characters in it, but the name of the bar was actually Maggie's, which was...
Oh, shit, I didn't even catch that it was Maggie's.
Yeah, it was called Maggie's.
Adrienne Barbeau's character.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just... like the level of detail, and that's the thing that really like rung true with me with the Escape from New Jersey and with Krueger, is that there are just moments like these little just if you look at it just kind of on surface value, you wouldn't get them, but if you obsess over these things, like I feel I do, you absolutely picked them up, and you're just like, fucking A, man. Absolutely. And that's kind of, what I've seen in your work. I also watched Turned, which is your vampire film where you play the priest, Padre. Yeah. And it's just like the most metal fucking... it's almost like John Carpenter's vampires with a little bit of Blade in it, where it's this, I liken it more towards John Carpenter's vampires just because, it's more of a Western style, buddy drama where, you have this impasse that you have to reach kind of at the end of the film. And, when you get to that point, it's kind of a mutual understanding, and I thought it was fucking brilliant. I really like the way that you guys were implementing action, and I want to kind of get a gauge as to what it's like to work on something like this, where, you know, I mean, with Turned, you know, that's, you know, a wholly original concept.
Right.
But in situations where you do, you know, Freddy versus Michael Myers, or, you know, you did The Punisher, you know, where
Right.
you have these existing worlds to work in. What is it like to work in something where, you know that the audience expects certain things?
It is exciting to do it, especially with Krueger, where we would go to some of the locations that were used in the series. That's very exciting, and it's frightening at the same time. And I'll tell you why, because of exactly what you just said. There's a core fan base and a core audience that loves the Nightmare series, loves Robert, loves Wes, all of the other characters that are in it, loves Amanda Wiss, loves Heather Langenkamp, and you go in and you do a fan representation of that, and we do it very seriously. We know, of course, that they're fan films because we're fans of them. We're doing fan films and we don't have the licensing to do them, so obviously it's a fan film. But we take them so seriously. We wanted to take it so that you could take our films that we've done, and not that they're canon, but that they could fit into the canon of the existing series as a whole. That's what we really wanted to do, and to do it very seriously, not do anything cheap looking, not do anything disrespectful to it, and really honor it, knowing full well that there's going to be people out there who just are going to bash you for it. And I was fully prepared when the first one came out. I thought to myself, all right, I'm really hoping that about half the audience is going to really be behind us, because I know there's going to be people who are just not going to accept anybody but Robert doing it, and they're not going to accept a new interpretation of it. But we were really very lucky, and not exaggerating, at least a good 90 to 95% of the audience and the fans of the series really accepted us. And we really thank them for that, because we did it for them.
Well, and this isn't to, disparage the rest of the series, but that very first one is so fucking strong. It's very, it's a simple structure. It's, just an interrogation scene, but yeah. It's so like you have this malice in your face, and this way about you that's very confident, as if you've been playing this character for years and years and years. It felt like you completely understood your motivations, where you were going. And I guess where I'm going with this is, where do you find, how do you channel Freddy? Because I could see somebody saying, oh yeah, I just studied a bunch of tape and then I just did that. But that's not what you do.
That's not what I did at all.
And I, when I'm watching your work where you're not playing Freddy Krueger, I still see Freddy Krueger, because you have that very angular face, but you also have this and with Robert, not Roberto, but Robert, he has this very pleasant demeanor to him, but you see something very malicious beneath his eyes,
lurking beneath the surface.
And you absolutely see that in your performances. And I had said, I'm not sure if you heard the interview with Deandra, but I said, short of Robert Englund, you are Freddy Krueger in my eyes. And
thank you.
As a person who's spent more time in my life loving this series than not, I started watching these films when I was 12 years old. I'm 35, about to be 36. So more than a third of my life has been spent, obsessing and living in this world of these characters and this film series. And I don't say that, just as an ass-kissy kind of way, because, we're talking to each other. I genuinely believe that you have something in you that resonates as that character. And I'm not saying that you're a fucking child murderer. I'm just saying that you have this thing that you are able to kind of reach in and bring out. And I guess where I'm going with, again, is where do you go to find that? What is it that you're looking at this character as from a character motivation? When you play Freddy Krueger, what is your modus operandi when it comes to the way that you read a line of dialogue and the way that you sit in the chair? Because it all feels authentic.
Well, there's a lot of things that go into it, and one of the things you can't do is just flat out imitate Robert Englund, because to me that's not gonna, you're not gonna get an audience behind you if you just flat out just copy somebody. There had to be nuances. There had to be nuances of the way Robert played him in my performance, because I'm playing him for the most part without makeup on.
Mm-hmm.
So in order for the audience to recognize the character, you can't just slap on a red and green sweater and sit there and act like Robert. You have to really bring who the character is out, and that's not necessarily Robert. You got to think about who the character is. So yes, I did do some research on the first movie, the third movie, and New Nightmare, just for some mannerisms, because those are the three films that I like the most.
Those are arguably the best. Personal opinion, and I don't know how your totem pole of Nightmare on Elm Street films go, but for me, it's 1, 4, 3, New Nightmare, then 2, and then everything else.
I would agree with that. There's a lot of part 2 that I really like a lot too. He's just it's very sinister in part 2, and I really like Mark Patton's performance in part 2. So good. But also, to prepare for Krueger, I researched the character type itself. Freddy was abusive. He was a murderer. He was definitely a sociopath. He liked the control. And he was a masochist as well as a sadist. So I looked up traits of those people and kind of did some of the traits that they have. I put it into the performance. And if you look at the first one, when Freddy's handcuffed and he's kind of taunting Donald, yes, he's wringing his hands and tilting his head, and those were all traits of a person who is like that, of the sociopath, of the sadist, of the masochist. I mean, he got Donald to hit him. He was trying to get Donald to hit him in the movie, and he succeeded in getting it done. So little things like that. More so with the first one, there was probably more of me putting nuances of Robert's performance in it. And as we went along with the second one through the fifth one, I started to back off a little bit on that and put a little bit more of how I would do it in there, until the fifth one, where I had the makeup on in the fifth one, and I figured, all right, let me do a little bit of it again, but really do my own thing with it. And I think people appreciated that I did a little bit more of my own thing with it, because I resemble Robert.
Yeah.
So, you can't see me right now, but right now I stopped coloring my hair and I have a gray beard right now. So even more now, people go, wow, you really look like Robert Englund today. And I'm like, wow, that's not what I was going for, but okay.
And have you ever been able to meet him?
No, I have not. I'm Facebook friends with him. There's been a little bit of chatting. We've gotten word back to us that Robert's seen the films and likes them. But I haven't never met him in person. The only person from Elm Street that I've met in person is Amanda Wiss.
And Wilcox.
Yeah. I didn't meet Lisa. I did not have any scenes with Lisa. We're talking about the Watcher of
Park Avenue, yeah.
Right. I had to pick because my schedule and their schedule for me to film was a little tight. So the director, Ryan Burton, said to me, who do you want to work with? Do you want to work with Lisa or do you want to work with Amanda? And I was like, I really want to work with both of them, but, Lisa's working during the week and I'm booked, and Amanda's working on the weekend, so and I'm free, so I'll work with Amanda. And that was a really fun experience. She is absolutely a sweetheart.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of meeting Amanda like a year or two ago, and she feels like one of the most genuine people that I've ever met at a convention. I met Robert, I met Ronnie, and I've met Amanda, and she at one point, because obviously I've fanboyed out all over her, but my name is Chunky Larry. That's what I go by, and she's just like, oh, why do you call yourself Chunky? You're not Chunky. Like, she just played Den Mother to me for a hot minute, and it was just like, oh my god, I just want to put you in a ball and take you home.
She's very supportive.
It's just, she just seems like one of the sweetest people who's not, like, plussed by the world that she's come from, and I don't know. I can imagine that was probably a dream come true.
Yeah, it definitely was. It was a really wonderful acting experience, and it was a really wonderful personal experience, and the movie is going to be very good.
And you play Officer England, which I think is hilarious.
Of course, yeah. That was the director, Ryan. That was his idea. And when he called me and told me about it, I said, you know what? For all the comparisons that I get from playing Freddy to resembling Robert, you naming the character Officer England, that's just perfection.
So tell me, because just going from Officer England to you being a police officer, tell me about what that was like, real quick. Just I'd love to hear what it's like to live that life. Very quickly,
I can tell you that being any kind of law enforcement officer is both very rewarding and very frustrating, because on the one hand, you're helping people. On the other hand, you're taking somebody's liberty away from them because of something that they themselves did, which is never pleasant. I mean, it can be a situation that just goes from a person being upset and crying to a person physically wanting to kill you while you're arresting them. Then you have to deal with families, and I've always been very respectful to families when I was arresting people, because that's somebody's child, that's somebody's dad, that's somebody's husband, somebody's wife that you're taking into custody, and that's not the family's fault. So I always felt like respect is a two-way street when you work in law enforcement, and that if you show people respect, they will show you respect back.
Were you ever in any hairy situations where you felt like, oh shit, why am I doing this?
Yeah, definitely. Luckily, I never had to discharge a firearm. But in the course of arresting people, there's been dangerous situations where we would go into a house or a business, and the person that we were after had a gun and wanted to use it. Sure, yeah, but that's the job.
Yeah, I mean, because you worked like patrol, correct? You weren't.
No. No, I work for a federal agency.
Can you elaborate?
Not really.
Okay. If you did, you'd have to kill me?
Nah.
I know you have that in you. We've already covered that. I've seen your films. Now, with that experience, did you take any of that stuff into your work? Have you ever kind of internalized a moment, not necessarily playing a law officer, but maybe playing a criminal, where
Absolutely.
you take those moments where you recognize something, some kind of mannerism, and you're just like, that would work?
Absolutely. I've seen enough criminals in my day, and I've seen all different kinds of criminals. I've seen sex offenders, I've seen drug dealers. I know how they act. I know when somebody's lying to me. And I know the tricks that they play. So it helped it when you're playing mostly bad guys, which because of the way I look, I'm not going to get the guy next door, the dad with the 2 kids and the dog family type. You
kind of got that in The Happening.
Get that, but I will get cop roles and I'll get doctor roles or evil scientist roles or bad guy roles. So that comes in common. Yeah, very easy for me to play those roles because I have a lot to draw from.
Well, you got to play a dad in The Happening, right?
I did get to play a dad in The Happening. Yeah, that was one of my more sympathetic parts that I've played. That was a fun movie. Love it or hate it, that was a fun movie.
I'm sure that you have to know that there's a world of humor in people's reaction to The Happening.
Of course.
The fact that there's a drinking game for every time somebody says happening.
Yep.
I've seen like riff tracks on it, and there are very interesting reactions to that film, and I rewatched it, kind of in preparation for this film. It is. It's a polarizing film, and I can understand how somebody could not like it and how somebody could love it. I thought, it's bleak. It's incredibly bleak. I mean, plants make people commit suicide, which when you say it, that simply, it's just like, yeah, that's kind of weird. But what was it like? Because I'm sure that, working on a fan film, it's still kind of similar, as far as the way a production works. You go in, you do your job, and you get off. But, Hollywood, in a big budget M. Night Shyamalan film, I feel that, and again, I'm not speaking from experience, I'm speaking from just assumption, that there's probably a level of difference. And would it just be catering, or is there kind of setup times and things like that make it different?
What's different about it? You're hitting most of it right on the head. Is the money has a huge difference in it, because instead of you being in a very small green room and catering is pizza or something like you get on an indie film, and there's no dressing rooms and everything, on a big budget Hollywood movie, and that wasn't even a huge budget. I think it was $48 million for The Happening, and but Knight brought out like the best caterer from LA. Like, the trucks drove across the country for it, and let me tell you something. If we weren't running around for the 2 weeks I worked on the film, if we weren't running around in fields all day long in 90-degree heat, I would have put on about 30 pounds on that. I ate breakfast like of champions every day, because I think call time was 6 a.m. every day. Mm-hmm. Come in, get into makeup, and immediately everybody would run to Crafty and just grab breakfast, like heaps of it on plates. Lunch, they did something different every day for lunch on that movie. I mean, sometimes, I remember one just sticks out in my head. They refrigerated an entire tent and made sushi.
Jesus.
Yeah. So there's obvious differences when you work on a Hollywood film.
Now, in the downtime of working on that, obviously you're working with Mark Wahlberg and Zooey Deschanel. Are they just like once they call cut, off to their dressing rooms, or I'm going to my trailer, or is it like
sometimes if we were close to where all the trailers were camped, yeah, most likely, because I think Mark was getting ready to do work on The Fighter.
Uh-huh.
And so he had 2 trailers. He had his own personal one, and then he had one that had a gym in it. But I mean, if we were a little ways away from where everybody was camped, everybody just kind of hung out. I mean, we kind of shot straight through. The only time we really was any breaks is when they were setting up something or something didn't work, like those big giant industrial fans that blew all the plants around.
Yeah.
They were huge and loud. But yeah, for the most part, everybody hung out. You know, it wasn't like, oh, let me run off to my trailer type of thing.
Did you ever have to fight the urge to hum Feel the Vibration?
No, I know that he's not into that. The only thing I did, and I don't even know if he remembers this, is I told him that my mom was a huge fan of his after Boogie Nights. He just went, oh, jeez. And I'm like,
you're a star. You're a star. That's amazing.
But no, Zoe Deschanel was very approachable, very nice. I didn't realize at the time that the Mara Hobel that I was working with was Christina Crawford from Mommy Dearest. I kind of noticed it afterwards, but yeah, that was kind of fun. I had a good time with her on the set. She was just hysterical.
And have you ever working on anything felt starstruck by somebody, like where you're just like, oh my god, this is fucking happening right now?
I think it wasn't so much starstruck because even going back to my music days, I opened for a lot of bands that were huge bands. Mm-hmm. So I kind of got used to being around famous people as I grew up, but it was more like I would sit there and think to myself, how the hell did I get here? I just woke up one day and decided I wanted to start acting again. I took some lessons and I figured, you know, you're going to be lucky if you even get in an indie film, much less anything else. And I remember being on The Happening and saying, how am I here? You know, how did I get this? But it was fun.
Last thing I want to talk about is the petition. The Change.org petition for you to take on the mantle of Freddy Krueger in the future Nightmare on Elm Street reimagining, which, you know, it's all but certain that they're going to be doing it again. Do you genuinely want to do that, or is it something that you're trepidatious about entering into because of the way that Jackie Earle Haley was received?
No, it's definitely something I would absolutely, if my manager was able to wrangle me an audition and they offered it to me, I would absolutely take it. What I said before about being respectful, I mean that. I really meant that. But it doesn't put fear into me that I shouldn't take on a role like that. It's something that I've been kind of campaigning for a long time anyway. Mm-hmm. Am I on the radar at all? I know I was for a while. I don't know if I currently still am. But yeah, if I was offered that role, I'd absolutely take it.
And is there something performance-wise, acting specifically, that you want to do before everything is said and done?
It's not so much a specific role. I mean, the obvious role for me would be Freddy Krueger, because it's something, like I said, I campaigned for. But in general, acting in general, I just want to keep getting better and more varied roles. Like you were talking about Turned earlier. The priest I play in Turned, Padre, is a totally sympathetic character. He's not a bad guy. He's a bit of a badass. He's a little bit of a whiner, but you know, he's not a bad guy. You know, some of the other films that I've done, I've played people who cry. I mean, I did a movie called Perfect, which has been named different things in different countries, but my character is basically like a Dr. Frankenstein type of thing, that type of guy who loses his wife and creates an android in her image. And there's a whole crying scene in there. And I just want to be able to do different and better things.
Excellent. That's a good enough as place as any to get this tied up into a bow. So right now, I just want you to be able to tell the people listening to the show, because there will be people listening, where they can find out more about you, or places they can get a hold of you.
Okay, I'm pretty much on almost every social media that you can think of. If you type my name, Roberto Lombardi, and the word actor after it, you're going to find me on IMDb, you're going to find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, anything that you can think of like that, you'll find me on there. A picture will pop up.
And anything coming up that you want to recommend people look out for?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Actually, not next week, February 7th, a crime drama I did called Underground Kings is coming out on DVD. I am playing a mafia boss in that movie. Then I have a trilogy of short films that's being going to festivals this year called the Masks Trilogy. It's kind of like a psychological thriller.
Mm-hmm.
And that is going to be festival season this year. And then I have The Watcher of Park Avenue coming out later this year.
Fantastic. Well, if you want to find out more about Creature Features, if you're here because of Roberto, why the fuck do I keep calling you Lombardi? If you're here because of Roberto and you want to find out more about Creature Features, you can do that as well in a myriad of ways. You can do that by liking us on Facebook, facebook.com/CreaturePod, following us on Twitter and Instagram @CreaturePod, and, say some nice things on the Stitcher and the iTunes. And, that's going to do it for us. Again, Roberto, thank you so much for doing this. This has genuinely been an honor. As I said, you are my Freddy Krueger now, since the old guy doesn't want to do it anymore.
Well, thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here. It was great talking to you.
And that's going to do it for us over here at Creature Features. So, for Roberto Lombardi, and for myself, again, my name is Chunky. This has been another episode of the Creature Features podcast on geeksoftheindustry.com, Stitcher, and iTunes. Listen with someone you trust.
I'm lying here thinking of you, and it ain't right. Something's wrong, the feeling's gone, and I can't go back, yet I can't hold on, and I won't start love. When passion's gone, the road it turns. It's too late to turn back now. There's no other way to go. Why do I feel alone right now? That ain't the way it should be. Here we are. I'm hoping it's the same next time around. Near or far, it's always there and never to be found. What in the world can I do so that I might see you smiling? What if it all comes crashing? I can't seem to get you.
You've got a little daughter, right, Don? Can I call you Don? Don't talk about my kid. You know what? Don't even think about my kid. You hear me? Nancy, right? What did I just say? Nancy Thompson. I'll be sure to remember her. Now you listen to me, Krueger. You're in my world now. You fuck with me, and I'll kill you. You can't do shit to me, Lieutenant. And we both know that that's the part that really pisses you off.
I could very easily call for a lawyer right now and send you packing with your tail between your legs. No, you need my confession. We both know it. And the only reason I'm even having this meeting with you is because I'm bored. So show some fucking gratitude.